Welcome to Champions Network TV. Good evening, Africa and the world. And here at Champion TV, where voices rise, the truth is told, and the change begins here. And tonight, we confront the deep and complex realities of civil rights, inequality, police brutality, systemic racism, residential segregation, voter suppression, and economic equality, issues that shape lives from Harare, Lagos, Cape Town, and Cairo. The question is who sets the rules, who watches the gates, and what happens when justice is denied. This is not just a conversation, it's a call to action. So let's dive in. And tonight we have got panelists joining us with the voices that have got wisdom and experience. And in the studio today, I'm joined with Jenna, a farmer and educationist rooted in the soil and the grassroots and classroom, bringing insights from the grassroots. Shortly, maybe we might be joined by Soko, a mentor businesswoman, trailblazer, empowering women and communities through enterprise and development. And also, we'll be joined by Makombe, a businessman, passionate advocate for boys to man movement, changing stereotyping and building responsibilities. And finally, the visionary that myself, Misha, and who runs the platform for Champion Network TV. So, welcome, Jenna.
Welcome. Good evening, viewers. Good afternoon. Good night. Good morning.
Wherever we might be watching us
Yes,
from.
yes. This reminds me of this guy, Evans Mabara. Wherever you might be, whether you are in Mutare or
And
okay, let's look at our stories and see how we get to start moving.
right.
So, firstly, I think we need to understand what we mean by civil rights, so that we can eventually talk about these civil rights and we see at which point are they infringed and who infringes those rights, who monitors them, and those people that are monitoring, what gives them the right to monitor them, and then what are the consequences of the people that come in and disturb or um, confuse the people that are trying to get the rights to be, those civil rights to be observed. So the civil rights, we can say those are fundamental or legal rights that ensure all people are treated equally and can participate fully in the life of their society, free from discrimination based on race, color, religion, sex, national origin, age, disability, or other factors. So you can see this description or definition of civil rights. It encompasses a lot of things. And within this framework of things, you can also start to think of other things that are actually not being done properly. For instance, we look at we are saying discrimination, which can be based on the race, color, religion, sex, national origin, age, disability, or is all these things, they've been used or misused to make sure that these civil rights are not properly maintained, or to see that these things are done in a proper manner. Right. So if you look at the protection, where does the people that want to protect those rights, where do they get the right to protect the civil rights. So you see that these civil rights protection emanate mostly from the constitutions and laws of the countries. So which actually automatically means that if the constitutions are not properly followed, or if the constitutions have got some gaps in there, or some ways in which people can take advantage of, then you will see that those rights, civil rights, will eventually be infringed. So it is now the governments and the government agencies that are actually responsible for making sure that these civil rights are given to the people, and there's no issues arising from them.
Yeah, you're right. I think the starting point of when it particularly when we are talking about any country, or in particular Zimbabwe, our civil rights, we derive them from our constitution, and the constitution that was agreed in 2013, and that it enshrines a lot of rights there: right to life, right to dignity, to personal liberty, security, and your security of your possession, freedom of from torture, inhuman, degrading treatment, and also there's also, especially in the media space, there's also this freedom of expression. And I don't know how far, when it comes to Zimbabwe, is the term that is normally used when we talk about what is that one of Uganda, Idi Amin. He used to say you have got freedom of freedom of speech, but we are not guaranteed freedom after speech. So we don't know how that whether those are the terms that will then infringe in people's rights. And I think if Shumba was here, he was going to hammer in a lot on the institutions, and whether we have got institutions that are robust enough to protect our civil liberties. And how
I
far
think
are gone?
uh, I just want to say, you, because you are zooming on to Zimbabwe, zooming in, right? The issue is that there is a difference between freedom and freeness.
Freedom.
So if you come up with those terms, and if you cannot separate them, you then infringe someone's freedom by your freeness. And then if someone responds now to that, then you wakuti mavarangu azarevu manje.
uh,
It all hinges on who then is administering or protecting those human rights, and how is it administered.
okay.
And is the constitution actually covering everything that has to be in the human rights charter, or maybe you can put it like that, so that we've got those civil rights protected.
We have got some people who are watching us on YouTube or Facebook. If you have got any contribution to this important topic, we want to hear your views and your experiences, because that shapes the conversation. And remember to like, share, and subscribe to Champion Network TV, which is your channel of choice when it comes to authentic conversation. Go on, you were saying something there, Jenna.
No, I was talking about the people that are actually responsible for making sure that the rights, the civil rights are protected. And then I was trying to look at the constitution to say, what does our constitution entail pertaining to the civil rights? And then how is it? Because at times what happens is there are some things which are very theoretical, and then when the practicality comes into play, it then becomes an issue. Because some of the things cannot be actually be put to practice from that theoretical perspective. And hence now, when you want to act or to do the practical part, it becomes very difficult. Very, very difficult. Now, if you look at who sets the rules, let's look at what we are looking at, say, in Africa. Okay, let's look at Africa. Then I know, obviously, you always come back to zoom at Zimbabwe. But who then sets the rules? Yes, we talk about the constitution, but if you look mostly in most parts of the African countries, those rules will then be set by the parties that will be ruling in those countries. Not that okay, I can say they are the people that set the rules, but actually it's not necessarily that they set the rules, but they implement, they put that to practice. Because remember, there's a constitution. So that constitution, someone has to make sure that it is being followed. And in that process, at times, if it is one person, or we can say at times one party following that or trying to implement the constitution, it's just like the Bible. You find there are so many pastors, and each pastor reads the part that goes on with his beliefs. So if that person goes on with what he ends up maybe taking the people in that particular direction, that he or she wants. And it happens. It is. So how can we try to make it to be really just, or to be for equity to be? Yes.
Yeah. So let's welcome Mr. Makombe, the renowned businessman, the leader of Boys to Men, and the founder of the platform to lecture the world. Welcome, Mr. Makombe.
Thank you, sir. How are you?
We are doing very well.
Good. Jena zvese.
Tinofara umba makadii zvenyu.
Tinodaro tinozama kutaura nyaya yefreshness yabva yatibudisa mumagumbezi.
Freshness yabva kubuti.
Takautaurwa nemwanzi mudhara wakakutaura nyaya yefreshness. Topi pinda.
Saka zvati mudhara waivatanga.
Asi mudhara wakakutaura nyaya yefreshness. Pinda. Munaro is a very popular figure. Handichamutaura zita rake. Asi ndingangomudza kuti ndapinda.
Mauya makatiro andari nhasi.
Sangoti tisvikewo tione zvinova sei.
Right. Umba panapa tine musoro wenyaya unoti civil rights, racial. I think it's a very multi topic about racial segregation, but particularly when the first thing that we were talking about is civil rights, and I think Jenna and myself were trying to say, where do we derive our civil rights, particularly in Zimbabwe and in Africa? And I think we were zeroing in on the constitution to say the constitution enshrines certain rights, and then the question is how are they implemented in practice? And Jenna was talking about there is freedom and freeness.
havamuka hanzi havakombe pindai atanga mudhara wenyu sangoti
Saka this is where we are. Saka tinomboda timbonzwawo pfungwa dzenyu kuti dzinotifandudza kusvika pa.
I think zvinhu zvese zvinotangira pademocracy. Democracy and its abuse. Its abuse as a system. Because tikada kuita rehearse what constitutes democracy, we all say is government of the people, by the people, for the people. But do people rule? Is it government of the people? Is it government by the people? Ndo patinosiyana ipapo. Saka, to try and tweak the whole story, there is a wave of freshness that comes by via what we call anonzima social incentives. Tinokupai mabhini mahara, tinopa vana venyu kuchikoro mukaka, and so on. Ndo freshness iri kutaurwa nemurume because civility haina zvakadaro. Because remember, we are talking about civil, and then the next word is rights. Rights constitutes mandatory terms. Kana cha right ga chani simba. Freshness haina simba. Freshness is just there to substantiate you as a person. Kuti aiwa zvichanaka tikuzvigadzira. Vamwe vakadzidza kuMoscow vanotaura kuti democracy is a model which is designed to facilitate self-awareness in thyself. Saka inotaura kuti iwe uri dofo, nzwisisa kuti uri ani. Ndo zvavanotaura izvozvo. Vakadzidza kuMoscow vanhu vazhinji ivo vari socialized ne-socialist ideology vanokuudza izvozvo. Because vanonzwisisa udofo hwavo. As long as unotonzwisisa udofo hwako, you can't talk about rights. Legality is complex.
Bachonetsa kandi chekuti mazuva ano zvakunetsa kuti vakwanza vanonyembedzera kuzungaira manje. Saka
vanhu vakawanda vanozungaira. Fine. And then what?
Iwo udofo wacho chimbori chiko chacho udofo wacho.
Kuita dofo simply means postponement of your view.
Okay.
Well, that's what dofo kuita say. Because dofo nenge chingoti handizvo zvichaizvo. Handizvozvo. Ukada uramba uchimpusha ukamisa pakonda hama kundijairira ndakakunyararirai. Panga zvaita ye freshness yenyu.
Vakufanira humba manje. Kutange nguruve yapedzera yazopikira kumashure manje. Yakuchitarisa enemy manje. Kuti uda kunyatsoita sei chaizvo.
Mapesa anyasotaura iwa. Freshness yauya iba pindai makoro. Kumbozodana.
Pindai mudzimure.
Aiwa, the analogy was brilliant. It was well packaged, I must say. However, you thought about it, I don't know. But, it's a good argument which can be sustained when argued from another point of view. But we can't talk about civility and rights. Rights are mandatory. The moment they become mandatory, they become a problem. How are you going to police them? Because my rights are not.
Okay, I think let's. I think since I said we are talking in general terms, but I think at the end of the day we'll end up zeroing on Zimbabwe. So let's first look at what the Constitution says or what rights are in the Constitution, right? So that we can really see, now we can discuss to see if there are some rights which are not being followed or which are being Then we can see how each one of them is being
All right, Jen,
how
okay.
being manipulated, and what do you think can be done?
Zvinhu zvese zvinotanga neauthorship, right? Ndiani akanyora constitution? The only other man akambotaura kuti akanyora constitution ndizvobvo. He always used to declare kuti ndini ndakanyora constitution. It was a famous mantra from him. But imimi tirakuda kubvunza anonyora constitution ndiani?
Kwenye ichinyorwa handichakanyorwa kudhara. No, it's just argument here and there hapo nepapo kana paita
alright kareko makanyora here imi. What's your contribution to the constitution? Okay.
Andito vanoti vakaita outreach muna 2013.
Outreach yekuti munofanira kuti pamombe nemunda ndo outreach yamutaura izvi. Ndiyo outreach yacho. Maseka. And then somebody else who is more academic than you will go and write it in prose or in legalistic language. Then the likes of Maduku come in and then say, no. We can't argue with constitution. That's why constitutional law is one of the most complex entities in the world. Because it deals with authorship. We give you the option to mandate or the mandate to amend. And then I could take this term. Mashinga. At fees I could take this term. End of story.
And the same as the constitution is made by men. We can sit in the morning, agree on something, we put it in the constitution, and in the afternoon we change our mind. And in the evening we change our mind.
Yeah. Because at the end of the day, local government in sectors where they debate zvikuitika society yedu kana kuti angava mabhini and so on. Atitomboona kana jena ari ikoko anenge achitaura kuti taundi raane tsvina hamuuye. You see what I mean? So we can't do it in terms of constitution. How does it go in?
So the other, which means the other question which we need to answer is: do our people know what are their rights in their constitution?
No. Rights is a heavy word.
Okay.
They know kuti tine mutemo.
Oh.
Yeah. Mutemo yatinoziya anonzi makwazai laws. Ukaba unosungwa. Katora mukadzi wemumwe unosungwa. Chinhu chinosungisa ndo mutemo kuour people. Zvimwe zvese zvana corporate law, constitutional law, jurisprudence hawazvizive izvozvo ende havana basa navo. That's why vanhu vachichinja havo vachiamend the constitution it will, because there is no accountability. Constitutional accountability is zero. Pane kuti anenge azoitawo chinhu chekuti aiwa imimi manyanya imimi, let's take this to the Supreme Court. Timbonzowa muonoti kudii. Supreme Court inotaura kuti toda judicial review. Maona. Endi nyaya dzakadaro hadzi kana kwakumberi kuseri kwekuseri hatitombozvizivi. Tinozongovhunza kuti saka zviri kunzina uri kumbotii? Because we are not socialized and educated that way.
Most of the rights, there is an ongoing case yekumusha kwamurewa kuti one rimwe bhuku raka-infringe into the other. Saka woenda kwamambo, mambo opa judgment kuti aiwa imimi itai so. Awobva waenda kunoita appeal to the High Court. And now the outcome from the High Court and nekwamambo zvasiyana. Saka which one do we follow?
Supreme Court is supreme.
Zvine order kazvizvi mambo ane pake poita koti imwe payo poitawo Supreme Court payo saka always the higher one is because the one given by the higher office takes precedence.
Tiri kumboenderei kure takaita issues yema-tinted glasses. Umwe akamuka akavhunduka akati ndinoda kukuudzai kuti with immediate effect ma-tinted glass ese ndinomusunga munhu iyeye. Right. Attorney General kana Minister of Justice akataura kuti hakuna mutemo wakadaro. There is no clause substantiating zvaari kutaura. It's null and void. Makazomudzwa futi. Wanga watombosungwa nemutemo wacho, they had to go to court. Now pana wakuvafurira kuti sue.
Murikuona manje.
Saka vamwe vayo vakanhengerirwa vanofanira kutonosuwa futi.
Yeah, they can.
Iyo yanyaya yemasocial media yekuti if anything happens munhu akangonzwa tumastori tudiki tusina kwatati tukamboenda munhu otanga kutoti bharu zobva zvatoenda viral zvokuti munhu anopedzera kuti we end up kufunga kuti whatever whoever says it.
Zvinotanga because
there are things that are said in official capacity.
Appointed the wrong MPs. Appointed the wrong MPs, members of parliament. Not on merit. Is not enough. MP. We need more clout from a person.
Saka uyeme amend constitution yacho. Titaure kuti MP.
Simuzai white paper katiti amend constitution kauto munotanga ne vote of no confidence kakuti izvi zvisi kufamba izvi tadii kudai. Then you follow the proper procedures.
Vote of no confidence yekuti ase yechi chacho youpo wacho
yekuti ase kana system irikutadzika.
Tikutaura zvekuamenda constitution guys kuti pakanyorwa kuti zvakati
muda kuamendi. You demonstrate vote of no confidence in the system. So you can't apply the system. Kana is null and void. Atingatanga kuti mwana 1 + 1 = 7. We deal with why mwana wari 1 + 1 = 7.
Unoza zvatakati utaura ndimakombe. I wanted to say if you look at things like constitution meduka munotaura kuti in the constitution it prohibits torture, slavery and forced labor. Those three. Is it happening? Is it realistic? Are there any challenges to follow that part of the constitution? And if not, where is it lacking? What is happening? Because we can't come in with the blanket cover, but everything must go to the vote of no confidence based on public chaipo. Because I know when you talk, you guys, your arguments will be saying everything is wrong. I don't believe that.
What I said
iri papi paconstitution pacho
kwaiva nenyaya dzekunzi vanhu kwainzi mumwe anonzi ruda short sleeve kana kuti long sleeve.
Haisi Sierra Leone here yaita zvakadaro.
Where was that?
Sierra Leone ndo yanga iri famous yekudimbura mumaoko. Those are war crimes, guys. That's the
war crimes.
Yeah, okay. Exactly. You can take them that way now. Those are war crimes. We cannot put in war crimes in our argument here about civil rights. Because war is a total menace. You can't control anything that happens in there. You can't go in with the constitution in a war zone. It means when people start to fight when there's a war, it means that constitution has collapsed. There's nothing that is going to be followed in that constitution.
I want a narrow issue. Kutaurira wautaura wakuda kupaza inini manje.
Okay, who monitors? Let's see who monitors that justice and equality.
1 minute we were talking about the internet. Kuti media inodaida. Who polices the media? Remember, everybody is now a publicist. Takabwa mandate yekudaro. Ukamuka nhasi unogona kunyora zvaunoda iwe.
Takwenda freeness freedom.
Yeah, freshness. Fan club yangu iri ndine fan club yangu iri not belong to a broadcasting association. Saka vari kuda kuona kuti ndinokwikwidza here
kuti munomiramira here.
Ndinomiramira saka munhu wacho andiri kumiramira naye hapakaipa.
Let's agree to disagree tienda.
Ngatimbozororai tichinzwa the upcoming wafa.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, that is made in Africa. This is an upcoming event soon. Just watch the space.
Okay.
Let's for those who are watching us on either Facebook or YouTube. We want to hear your views on this quite important topic. It is through conversation that we can begin to understand what goes on within our borders. So.
MaBritish akanetsana neya inonzi euthanasia, mercy killing. Yekuti ndaneta neupenyu ndakuda kuzviuraya. Zvikanzi nemaBritish hapana anozviuraya muno, hakuna zvakadaro. Kana muchida kuzviuraya endai kuSwitzerland paunogona kuzviuraya. Vari kuSwitzerland vakati aiwa anenge achida kufa ngafe hake. Uya unongobhadhara mari yako ufa. Now it's a big debate. Imwe kutaura nyaya yemarights care. How do you deal with euthanasia? Basically, munhu arwara uyu arwara zveshuwa. Takuchingoti Mwari itai kuda kwenyu. Zvinokuda kwaMwari kuri kunonoka. Regai timupe chefu afe.
You see, ndosaka tataura nyaya kuti each country has got its own constitution. The problem arises when you want to kutonga kumba kwevamwe. Ura unoitei kumba kwevamwe ko. Vamwe vawirirana kuti ngatiurayi. Si ndizvozvo vari right iva vakadaro vasiyei kana vati hatisi kuita zvidi hamuzvidi bo pap mune constitution. That's why everyone has got his own constitution to follow and we are actually very different. The same like even if you look at the religion kuti mumwe anotaura munhu hanzi afa nhasi avharigwa ipapo mumwe anotaura kunzi munhu afa unzi ano timumirira zita pati after mwedzi tatambira mari tozomuviga. Zvinoitika. So we can level the playing ground. Yes, we talk of the world being a global thing, but people are different and they will always be different. The issue is when you want to be the big man for everyone, to represent everyone, and to make everyone follow yourself.
Big boy.
Ndendoda kukomenda pataurwa na Makombe kuti we don't want to assist people to die. and we want them to go away and whatever. But we are actually doing we are prescribing assisted dying by prescribing morphine. Kune munhu anenge ane kidney ya 5% functioning. Anofilter sei chemicals amuri kumudosa nawo. Andiri kutongouraya kwamuri kuita.
Mukuchinja zita.
Iyo ari kungotaura kuti inenge iri an advanced painkiller. It's a painkiller protocol.
But that one kills with the whole person also.
That's the case of nice. It's an advanced painkiller.
Just terminology.
What is a syringe drive? Munhu ane 5% functioning kidney. And the kidney is the only organ dealing with those chemicals that might come on.
Kana vari kutotaura kuti painkiller vanenge vachitotadza vanoiti pain control. Make it a bit better. Civil rights inganobokudza kuti there is no such thing as democracy. In the government of the people, by the people, for the people. People don't rule anything. People have no mandatory stance to rule. So we can't talk about people ruling. What are they ruling? In what sense? And how? And why? Kada kutaura kuti mimi vanawa wakabva kuchikoro na 3 vari kuenda kumunda kwenyu kunochokonyona chibage. That's slavery. Imunoti haisi slavery. Warida kuwana mari yawo yekutenga mabhuku. Ndozvo munotaura kai?
Ende vachiwana kuzoenda kuchikoro kwacho.
Anenge achiri munhu here kana chinocho. Anenge aneta man. They will be battered and tired, these kids.
But if you look at the other side, it's actually bad. That economics.
All right. What tends to happen is ndezvekudai so ndikati ngatiwake chikoro nhasi paprice paying munhu wese unzi ai $5 hawaishai $5 chikoro chinowakwa munozviziva
kuno kudhora rinoshayika baba dhora
mune musati makuda kuwa chikoro incentive yekuwaka chikoro
right wazvoona ndokuti vanenge vari kuchida here because the story you're talking about, remember that every community has got its own way perspective, right? Yeah. And they also have got their own needs. And you remember the story I told you about my place, about people trying to come up with a dam. We didn't want the dam. But generally speaking, people need the dam.
That's
what I'm saying. Don't come up with people from across the border or across the province. No, we are different. First, find out this. There should be need analysis. There's a need analysis. Ask the people what do they want.
Okay. I hear. Panimangwa knows my influences, right? Influences has become a massive, giant word in today's vocabulary. Influence, inoreva kuti in Shona, wakambozvinzwawo here, ndozvo zvinoreva izvozvo. In the strictest form. Kuti wotaura kuti kune zvinhu zvakadai. Honai? Umwe anonzi futi wakambozvinzwawo here kune zvakadai. Right. As the momentum is gathered, inonzi church model. Church munhu aisi anotaurirwa kunzi Mwari ndiye anotoponesa. Ndikauya nemodel yangu yekuti guys, panapa tiri kuda dhemu for the simple reason yekuti dhemu rinowakwa. Chinoita kuti tisawakwe dhemu risawakwe irretarded influence. Because munga create effective influence, dhemu rinowakwa, chikoro chinowakwa. And at the same time, jena hatomboda kunzwa nezvedhemu. Atoburi. Adi. Zvechikoro anogona kuzvida kuti okay, ane workforce inouya kuzoshanda panapa. Havachafambe 7 kilometers. Vanenge vakungoti from there wakutopinda mumunda kunoko. Saka iripo. Saka sometimes hatizvipi proper analysis kuti zvinyase kuti dyo. Kana kuti hatitoziviwo tiri madovho.
Both kana mchida kuti damuri wakwe munhu wokutanga kuti buy into the idea ndi Jane.
Wakati Jane atula kwa academy zvinovakwa mangwana chai. Mangwana kunenge kwatone task force MP chakuna surveyor wanenge wauya one time.
So it is very important to find out who is the opinion leader in that place.
Influence.
Then you make the yes, influence. Yes.
Zikangonzi tuda kudai ndo zvikubatwa nevakuru vedu. Vakuru wenyu wapiko imimi. Wana Jena vari kuzviziva. Ende hapana munhu anombochipikisa chinhu ichocho. Jena.
Plus ukatobvunza vakatouya vakadzoka zvavanzi vanotanga kuti vazokonfirma. Kudai zvinenge zvikunzi zvakati does that work? Makambozvinzwawo here? Kana tatongoti haiwawo zvafa.
Bvunzai Jena ndiye ari kutiitira.
Iko kungoti haiwawo.
Zvatopera.
Because my systems are akadaroka akafa. We don't know how to manage them. Until such time, no, we can manage it this way, that way, yes. For now, I can.
The next question, how can platforms like this be platforms of influence?
Influence inotanga nemunhu. You don't exert influence as you. Unofana unge inonzi personal propaganda yako iwe. Kana wana ayo uziva kuti guys panapa toda chikoro. Something very important. Unongotaura musi unenge uchiitwa kuchechi kuti pachikoro panapa this area is starving. We need a school. Ndangoti tingotaurirana vana baba tozotaura mumwe musi. Vanenge vachizhanda vamwe vachiti iye ari kuda asi ndiye ari kuda kuita chikoro chacho asi ndechani chikoro. That brainstorming is needed. Chinhu chese chinobudirira chinotanga nebrainstorming. Kusawirirana ikoko kutori important. And then we will find that mukusawirirana munotanga kucreata maclusters. Vari kuda chikoro, vasingadi chikoro, vasikantombozivi chikoro. Then you develop into a tradable entity. Chinhu chinovakika nacho kuti sei muri kuda chikoro imini. Mazunga tabva pavanhu vasingadi chikoro taakuda kuziva kuti sei muchichida, sei chiri kudiwa.
Akazoitei munhu akaita chikoro. Tobvunza akazoitei munhu akaita chikoro.
Unotaura kuti Joseph akaita degree asi ari kutengesa mabhanana kumusika uku.
Atonesa achida lift.
Saka that's why I keep telling people kuti education is rehearsed knowledge. It's not designed to make anyone a genius or a success story. Chinoita kuti uite successful value. Value makes you successful. Because hatikangano, jena hatikukanganwe because of what yako, because of value. Success yokuti wakatenga mota haigari. Because ikango beuka chete umziri jena chimota chakafa.
But it's very true. That's what happens in life.
As value yaunayo, I see chinhu chekuti we can just erode and run away from. No. And ukangomuka ukasvika ndo pekuti ukasvika vanhu vanongosimuka kuti garai nyapo garai. Zvamufanira ukaenda kumariro efamily. Unongopuwa cheya, ushayikwe necheya.
Chepo kugara.
Diaspora kudai.
So, which means that point of yours is bringing us back to what you've been saying. Okay, the people that are monitoring this justice, equality, and the whole story we're talking about here, you were now saying they do not have value because they have just been placed or misplaced. I don't know what you're talking about.
Successful. Success doesn't mean you have value. Value is a different ball game.
So they successfully won the election.
Yeah. Because I'm not going to Visquaga. Don't by example. Jeremy Corbyn, Kunoku England. Akapinda power. Right. Akatoenda kuno contest as president with prime minister. Right? Because angane value yakadaru. They knew you could be prime minister of Great Britain. Okay? Akaruza. Okay. Mapawat. Kwakayamwe blaza inzi John Major. Angane form 4. Akazi na Margaret Thatcher, iwe unogona kutonga iwe. Unotonga nyika iwe. Uya. And I'll back you up. Akaita 2 terms achitonga nyika. Aine form 4. Ane value.
We have just been joined by Mr. Magabai all the way from Uganda, and I think he is the right person to actually talk about the elections and the denying and the suppression of the elections, particularly in Africa. Welcome, Mr. Magabai.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Magabai, how are you?
I'm fine, thank you. How are you?
I'm very well, Mr. Magabai.
Hey, good, Mr. Magabai.
Good to see you too.
Good.
And I know he has been he's busy preparing for their elections in January, isn't it?
Yeah, they're in January.
Mr. Magabai, I don't want to put you in a corner. Do elections work?
Elections work sometimes.
Oh, okay. No, just
Do they represent democracy?
There are better ways of representing democracy than through elections.
Oh, okay. Mr. Magabai, do you still want to go home?
No,
I'm just checking. That's all.
Just checking what you testing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mr. Magabai, before you came in, this guy, Mr. Makobi, he's been telling me that the problem with the people that are monitoring that justice is done and there's equality and there's also the issue of human rights observed. The people that are actually monitoring are the problematic people. That is why you find now that there's a lot of inconsistencies. And some of the people that monitor, they come via those elections that we are talking about, which you just came in now to tell us.
Thank you very much for allowing me to participate in this session. And when it comes to justice, we need to know that, especially in Africa, we had our traditional justice system. And I think, let me go straight by giving an example. I have an uncle who is a magistrate. He's now a registrar of courts. And he was sent to a place which was deeply rooted into tradition. And he went there as a magistrate. But most magistrates were very hesitant to go to that place. He also had wanted to refuse to go, like his predecessors. I told him, well, you know, the option you have is one. When you go to that place, put aside what you've studied in law school, get all the cases, the backlog that there is in that court, and refer it to the traditional justice system. That place is called Karamoja. Some people say it is the least developed part of this country, Uganda, but it is, I think, the most resource-rich country because there is a lot of gold, there is marble. I think they even have petroleum, all these minerals. So I told him, just forget about what you studied in law school. Refer each of these cases to the elders and see how it will turn out. And they had a backlog of cases for several years. But through that system, he was able to have cases resolved, and it was a win-win situation without having to follow the rules in court and what have you, providing evidence, transporting witnesses and the rest of it. So, like you say, those who monitor seem to be the real indisciplined fellows who violate and they now want to set standards for others, but nobody watches them, nobody polices them, nobody monitors them. So if there is monitoring, if there is a mechanism to monitor, it should monitor everybody uniformly and use the same yardstick across the board. For as long as the yardstick differs, then I think if we are left to use our traditional justice mechanisms, I think I would be living in more just societies and would be living more happily. So what happened was in that community in Karamoja, they used to have cattle raiding and what have you. But because of the system my uncle used, as I had advised, they would even alert him when there would be raids and they would tell him, please don't travel on this day because you are likely to find our boys coming from their work. Meaning, and for them, when they are coming from cattle raids, they would kill anything that crosses their path as part of their traditional way of doing things. So, shortly after that, the Justice Department realized that he had cleared the backlog of cases in a very short time. Then they gave him a scholarship for 3 months to go to Denmark, after which they brought him to the capital city, which would not have happened if he had decided not to go, because he would have been deemed a disciplinary matter and probably would have been fired. So what am I saying? That there are standards that are set, but if you stick to them always, you may find there's harm that you are bringing into your community. You are breeding revenge just because of not having to listen to or to pursue a matter in a manner that people usually understand and can really get to appreciate that, well, they have committed a wrong and they are sorry for it. And the issue is the resultant effect in our traditional systems was a win-win situation. And that's what any system, human rights or whatever, should pursue. But if you are doing something, it should be fair to all. The yardstick should be the same. Thank you.
Right, Mr. Magaba, I think we are moving hand in glove with you there. I've just been also explaining that also on the platform before you came in, when I said every place has got its own values, has got its own way of doing things, has got its own needs. Right. So the issue is mostly bringing these Westerners as the people that have got all the information or they know the know-how of how to rule us, how to make us enjoy our lives. That is where the story starts. Because if you go on to our own we follow our own needs, we follow our traditional ways of doing things, and then we can then develop from that point going upwards to see eventually we get to the Supreme Court. But as long as it is a top-bottom approach, it won't work.
Mr. Makaba has been very polite. He started off very well in highlighting his story pertaining to his uncle, who became a legal scholar and then subsequently went on to be a judge of an area. And then he introduced what we call positive corruption. I know he'll disagree with me on that, but that's exactly what happened. From henceforth, the whole story takes a major twist. The very legal scholar is offered a scholarship. Why scholarship? The scholarship was to reward him positively for the ill justice he had introduced to the system. When I went to law school, I was told tit for tat is a fair game. And then everything, we start talking about the law. That's how I view Mr. Makabaya's issue. Mr. Makabaya is a very learned man. He chooses his words correctly and acutely.
He articulates these things
And
well.
we should not allow him to get away with murder. You see what I mean?
I was trying to make a point. The point I was making was that whereas we have these rules and regulations that are prescribed by our current, probably we may call them modern systems.
Yeah.
What helped my uncle survive in that hostile environment was referring the cases back to their system that they understood. They resolved them because in law, I think there's a provision for arbitration. He referred almost all the cases to arbitration.
But Mr. Makabai, look, the situation we have here, we have a learned man in charge, right? Yeah. Who goes on to ignore tribunal systems, who goes on to ignore rehabilitation and all those legal entities that make, justice workable. And he goes on to say, okay, I'm going to bring a traditional system whereby if you misbehave, I'll deal with you. That's what it was, and nothing else. So then, is that justice then? Does that constitute justice?
Mr. Makombo, is that learned man is not the knowledge you are talking about? Then when he went there, that was exposed to things that way.
No. Remember, I've told you the essence of success.
Yeah.
Success is what you see. What we measure is what's important in a person is the value. That gentleman, a learned man who went to the thickest part of the forest and then he began, I don't know whether he was a judge or whatever, to redress the system for betterment. We can't say he didn't know what he was doing. He definitely knew what he was doing.
Stop talking parables here.
No, these are facts. Nothing to do with facts. These are facts.
Do you have another new Jesus here?
No, these are facts. These are proper facts. We have a guy who was dealing with positive corruption, who was rewarded by the system to the point where he was awarded a scholarship. We don't know what happened. Maybe he became Chief Justice after that or whatever. So I mean, when we have situations like that, we destroy the notion of justice, the notion of freedom. That's why they say freedom is a fallacy.
Who defines justice and who defines freedom?
You.
Through what?
Because you substantiate it, you ignore it, you ignore wrongdoings. That's fine. Yeah, that's fine. It's wrong here. What can we do? That's what they do. That's what they do. I don't know. This country. Until people die and die again. How many generations have passed on? While we say, you can never solve this. It's not something you can solve in this lifetime. Because we allow it to perpetuate. Once you allow a system to perpetuate, it becomes an unruly rule. If you ever wondered why the British Constitution is unwritten, that's the reason. They have an unwritten constitution for a reason.
But why do they force others to have a written constitution?
You're
Why
not being
should
forced. You are subscribing to that. They're not forcing you. They just simply say, I mean, you've got a ticket for your car and you've got to pay it. If you don't pay, there are repercussions to that. I asked you what is the constitution. Didn't I ask you guys? And you told me all this. Who defines the constitution?
It's a constitution by the people, for the people.
Okay, by the people. But do the people write the constitution?
That's what we answered you. We said one person writes, then everybody sees to look at that constitution and do the amendments and take out something, add something. There must be starting point.
Amendments are you making?
There must be a
on something
skeleton.
you haven't authored. You
No,
don't
by
know
virtue
the
of
electoral law and you are being asked to make judgment on it. How do you do that?
yes, by virtue of being a public thing, it needs public contribution.
No, this is not a dressing contest. It's an academic contest whereby you have to define what you want and how it's done. Somebody is saying, is democracy really free? I doubt. Or is it just freedom for powerful to shape the rules while the rest follow? Well, he needs to go back to the Makabai case study. This gentleman, he needs to do that. He needs to go back to that case study. It's very exciting when you explore and dissect it, how that guy ended up on the other side of the matrimony of the law.
Mm-hmm.
I see Mr. Misha is opening a Bible. Are you all right?
Oh, this one is not a Bible.
Oh.
it's the Constitution.
He's not praying. He's asking for wisdom. He's not asking for wisdom from God.
Freshness. He's looking for freshness.
If Solomon did it, why can't he did it?
Yeah, there you go then. There you go. So, Mr. Magabai, do you think
Yes.
freedom exists?
To the oppressor, yes.
I am aware you need to go back home and sleep in your own house. But I'm just asking, does freedom exist as a system?
Freedom exists, but freedom is not absolute. It is governed by certain rules that and for as long as it is within those limits, so it's not absolute. It's something that is regulated, because what you might deem freedom might be an infringement of my freedom. So there must be a balance between what is good for you and what is good for the other. At the end of the day, that's when we can say we're exercising our freedoms.
It is difficult to be common.
Yeah.
Okay. It's well answered. I mean, I don't contest that. Yeah. He's answered it academically. On a good day, I would argue, but
what does a good day look like?
A good day, well, any other day. But on a good day, I would have argued it. But I mean, he's been very articulate in presenting it. Because I would systematically ask, I mean, at what point do we have infringement of freedom? And what are the sanctions associated with infringement of freedom? That would have flawed this argument to nothing. That's what I think. I could be wrong.
But that is the last part of this topic now. What happens to the people that actually do not that infringes that freedom? that justice system? What are the consequences? Or if not, what should be done?
Consequences that were introduced to the freedom system evolve around rehabilitation. The sanctions are designed to rehabilitate everybody. They create sentiments of correction. But can we correct you as a perpetrator? How do we correct you? You send me to The Hague, yeah, for war crimes. And then we say, okay, after this, we are going to send you to prison. What is the role of prison?
You send things off.
Is he okay?
I want to switch off something.
Yeah.
I think there's something that is making noise in the background.
Yeah. So those are some of the things we need to understand. The notion of rehabilitation, the notion of understanding and correction. Because at what point do we correct or evaluate corrections? Because if you say this person has been to jail, has been in jail for 17 years, he's now out. Are we saying he's a rehabilitated soul? Or he's a soul that has been deprived of tools of the trade that can make him mischievous?
Comes back as a wounded soldier.
Yes. And when wounded soldiers come home, they're dangerous.
Mm.
So rehabilitation remains a utopia of dreams. Correction, they only exist in classrooms where somebody cannot, correct the notion of 1 + 1 and 2, and then it says 1 + 1 is 5. That's where correction can happen. And set of instructions evolving around that. Other than that, we are not in a position to push the synopsis of correction.
Because we have got some situations where someone who is sent to prison, which is supposed to be a correctional center, they come back a hardened criminal than when they went in.
Behavior is learned and can also be unlearned. Remember, what you need to fix is the mindset. Backdating from the I concept. Everything begins with I. What do you want to do? What do I want to do? Without the I concept, how are you going to facilitate change in yourself? It should be a felt need to change what you want to change. As long as there's no felt need, there's no mindset.
So maybe as a way of winding up, so apart from the jails and the correctional centers, what options do we have for those who would have violated the rights or whatever it is for others?
Okay, I can answer that question with a question.
Mm-hmm.
Why are our jails full?
I think our jails are full because we are not exploring other options. Because jailing is not the only way out. Depends on the magnitude of the crime or felony or whatever. That there are situations where in some countries there is what they call community service, where one has to labor within that community. It could be something like clearing a road, helping to clean a school, helping to clean a hospital, but with the view of them making them realize that what they did was wrong, and apparently that sends a signal even to the society better, other than when they
Acceptance
exclude
of crime,
and send a message that, oh, when you do something wrong, so this is what you can do, At times it's humiliating, but it sends a correctional message that, well, I think there must be a certain standard of conduct that people should follow, otherwise they end up this way. But when you take people to jail, like he said, certain behaviors are learned while there. Some of them get hardened. Even you find the ratio of the prisons officer to that of the jailed people is astronomical, to the extent that they cannot administer any correctional thing to a multitude. So you find really, at the end of the day, we need to explore options of correction.
So is it fair to start thinking about that in those who are starting criminology should have criminal options of rehabilitation as part of their dissertation or subject? I say yes.
I think so. And also another, there was an article that I read of our justice system, where they fail people who have been incarcerated. Is the fact that someone has been in jail for maybe 5 years or so, they have lost certain skills of living out there, and when they get discharged from the prison, there's no support system. That in that particular instance, it was about someone who was from the jail with a black bag with all his stuff in there, and he's supposed to go, and he has got nowhere to go. And the next thing he did is just he committed a crime the next day, because he felt maybe he just needed to go back, because he felt there was no support system
So
for him.
it's not that there is no support system. Support system is there. They've gone on to learn and consolidate bad behavior, which is difficult to extinguish overnight. Because even a well-behaved criminal is going to go back to his old ways, because that's his old way of life. So when we focus on rehabilitation, the psychology of thought focuses on what do you know first. You don't know, you don't go to what don't you know. You learn from the positive and then go into the negative, or from the known into the unknown.
Yeah, but I think I will agree with what Michelle was saying. To say the countries, they lack the support system. Yes, in correctional centers, of course, here you're still talking about jail. Here we're not calling them correctional centers. So in those correctional centers, those people are trained various trades, right? But now when they come in, when they go out of the jail, the support system might be lacking. And also, over and above that, those people will actually be completely lost in what is then happening in the world. Because imagine you've got 10 years in the correctional center or in prison, then when you come back, everything has changed completely. And the people that you used to be with, or friends to be friends, they are now at a different level. And it's very difficult to compete or to get to that level as well. So I remember with one guy here who actually ended up having his whole life in prison, because he would just be released before he even comes to reach home. He's again taken back, because he makes sure, and he would make sure that he does something so that he's taken again back.
So that's failed rehabilitation, isn't it?
Yes, but it becomes failed. Yes, it becomes failed if there's no support.
I think the issue of
So, Mr. Magombe said the support system is there. What success stories have you got that you outline that at least there's a support system when they come out of incarceration?
Well, incarceration should entail some extensive counseling, and in some cases, psychotherapy, to try and extinguish bad behavior. Bad behavior is something that you have to be taught, as when you've been exposed to situations whereby you just become an unruly person. Remember, some of these people have committed hideous crimes, killing other people. And you just expect them to go out there because they've been the inside for 10 years. They've got to be spoken to. They've got to acknowledge what they've done. They have got to, we have got to explore the learning curve associated with what they've done. And interestingly, most of them use the divine Bible pathway, I call it. They will say, I will never do that because I'm now praying. Yeah. There's a book called The Devil Has Come Back. It talks about a guy who went to prison for a very long time. He had killed a family and blah, blah, blah. He went out after 20 years, he killed somebody and he came back to prison. Which means that challenges the ethos of the ethos of justice and evaluation. So those are some of the things we've got to explore. I'm not saying I'm an authority in this area, but I have stubborn facts associated with it.
One thing that needs to be done is that when we have people who have gone to correctional centers, they have been equipped with a skill, say, maybe carpentry, motor vehicle mechanic. They are given tools to go and start off that, because while they're in incarceration, they provide a lot of labor.
Yeah.
And actually, in our country, I think they are entitled to a certain earning per day. If that is put together and translated into maybe equipment, that would be really good. But we should not focus on the person that has been in prison. The community also needs to be prepared to receive this person back. And for as long as this person comes back and finds a hostile environment, they are likely to resort to their old conduct.
But
yes.
What tends to happen is when you talk of acceptance, criminal acceptance is complex. Yes, you are inviting us to accept Mr. Johnson, who has killed his next door neighbor's daughter. I don't think that acceptance is easy. Community rehabilitation tells us that person should be given social justice, and social justice is death. That's why we face cases of hitmen left, right, and center, and so on. I don't advocate that, but that's what happens. If historically you look at what those guys who have come out of prison, they mysteriously die. They just die. So, anyway.
Right. I think we've been here for more than an hour, nearly an hour and a half. Let's do our justice closing remarks. I think this is quite an interesting discussion, which I think we need to revisit once in a while to exhaust some of the avenues. Like all the points that we have, it could have been just be a panel discussion on their own. So if we can prepare to do our closing remarks. And those who are watching us on YouTube and Facebook, if you've got any final thoughts, put them in the chat box, and then we can include it in our final remarks.
My remark is very simple. Justice prolonged is justice denied. Thank you.
And I would like to say that what is just needs to be known by the society, so that when justice is being administered, fairness is seen, it's fair, and it is really visible that it is fair, and justice evolves. I mean, this is what is just evolves with society, and society needs to be abreast with that, because if it lags behind, you might deem something unjust, and yet over time it has become part of what is just. We need to be conscious that in society there will always be a situation where some people deviate from what is deemed to be the correct way of doing things or the right way of doing things, and the mechanisms of bringing those people to check need to be understood. And when those people are brought to check, they need to be made to realize that what they did was wrong, and they should appreciate and be apologetic. The moment they demonstrate that, like you were saying, it's very difficult to receive somebody who has murdered. I'm living in a country where we've had several wars and we have had such situations of such people who have been known to have murdered. But over time, through a community effort, through the traditional system, they have had occasions where they meet, they perform certain rituals or whatever of acceptance, and at the end of the day, people are living. They may not have forgotten what wrong happened, but at least they can coexist. It might be with caution, but still there is an element of resistance rather than rejection. So society needs to be part of the correction and rehabilitation mechanism for people who go offline, I could say.
Okay, I think on my part, I just want to say consciousness and empathy should be the guiding factors that whoever is monitoring the justice system and taking care of people's lives, those people should actually understand the issue of what they want done to them should also apply to what they do to others, so that we don't have to sit and wait for repercussions, wait for jails or sanctions or someone to control you. We just have to be humane.
Um, Thank you very much. This was a quite engaging and inspiring conversation from the start to to finish. And I can't thank enough our panelists for bringing quite difficult conversation in a way that is engaging. From where we started talking about the definition of the law, how it is applied, then to how the correctional centers are either failing and what needs to be done. But as a final remarks, I would just want to give a few that has been put forward. Mr. Makombe is just one sentence that justice denied, justice prolonged is just as good as justice denied. And I think Mr. Makabai put forward to say whatever what is justice should be understood by the community, so that within the community they can also participate in the correctional mechanism. And I think he correlated that Uganda has got a history of wars, and I think in the war crimes there, and I think through some community engagement and the rituals, that even people don't forget, but at least there is an acknowledgement and the appreciation of the wrongs that has been done, and the country can then move forward. And Jenna says what is important is consciousness of and the empathy, so that those who are administering the justice system have got this as their guiding guiding system, so that we don't then depend on the repercussions of putting people in jail. And so I think this has been quite an engaging, and as I said, I can't thank enough our panelists for speaking boldly. And as Makombe was always referring to Mr. Makabai to say, remember, you've got a home to go back to, and you've got an office to go to tomorrow. After having this, but as always, Champion Network TV, that's where our truth is spoken to, and sometimes we consciously speak to power, so that things that need to be done come to the fore of our conscious. So, thank you. With that, I say good night, and those who are watching us, and we thank you for being with us, and also continue to like our channel, share, and subscribe.